So you're swimming for fitness, maybe you consider yourself to be a recreational lap swimmer, whatever it is, whatever term you use for yourself, that's fantastic, because obviously swimming is a great all-round body sport and something you can keep going well into your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s and even beyond. So well done, that's great, fantastic. I've been coaching many swimmers over 20 plus years, and what was really surprising for me when I did a little bit of survey was I always considered my squad here in Perth to be actually quite a competitive squad. People training up for events, etc., doing triathlons, doing adventure racing, doing the Rottnest Channel swim, those sort of things. And I just assumed that we had a vast majority of swimmers within our squad who considered that they were training for competition. Whereas in actual fact, when we broke it down, over 50% of the squad have no interest in doing competition whatsoever. They're just there to try to keep themselves fit, to maintain a healthy routine and a healthy morning ritual, and to make sure they're actually just looking after themselves. And that's totally valid and totally great. So if you are one of those people who consider themselves to be a fitness swimmer, lap swimmer, what have you, let me give you now 4 tips here to help you improve your lap swimming and maybe make it a little bit more enjoyable. Tip number 1, add a little bit of structure to your training program. This little gadget here, the Finis Tempo Trainer, is something that I use with my swimmers all the time in the squad, whether they're competitive or just recreational. It just helps to give a little bit of a framework, a little bit of structure to some of the training sessions. So rather than maybe doing 10 times 100 meters with 20 seconds rest between each one, I could maybe give you a bit of a target to say, hey, let's go for 10 times 100 meters and let's try and hit 1 minute 45 and take your 20 seconds rest. The little gadget there, the Finis Tempo Trainer, can actually be set to beep at you every 25 meters when you should be at each 25 meter marker, based on what we call your threshold pace. Now, whilst that sounds maybe a little bit competitive, a little bit above what you normally think of, you just want to get in and swim your laps, really adding a little bit of fun structure to your training can really make that whole thing much more enjoyable. Now, the big thing though is when I take swimmers who consider themselves to be lap swimmers, fitness swimmers, for an individual session, they often look at me really shy and really coy, going, when I ask them what swimming they do, oh, I just get in 2 or 3 times a week. Oh yeah, what do you do? I just swim 30 minutes continuous, or I just swim 2 kilometers continuous. That's great. Don't be shy about that. It's absolutely fantastic if you're actually getting in and swimming that consistently. There's nothing wrong with swimming continuous laps like that. I do it myself 2 or 3 times a week as well. But adding in a little bit of structure, setting out some intervals, etc., and they don't need to be complicated. You can maybe even add in a few drills to help you with your technique. It can really make the difference and really keep things that much more engaging. Tip number 2 then, bring a mate. Now, many people who are fitness and lap swimmers are doing so and swimming solo because it's just that much more convenient to rock up at the pool and go whenever you need to. COVID has changed that for a lot of people, given the fact that many pools now require you to book in and book a lane, book a spot, etc. So why not couple that necessity with maybe meeting up with a mate to make you a little bit more accountable? Now, every fitness and lap swimmer I've ever come across in my lifetime tends to be really conscientious about their training, so they are routine. You are a ritual person, a person who lives by rituals, and that's great, it's fantastic. But it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of accountability, to bring a mate along with you and make it a little bit more enjoyable. What a lot of people misunderstand is that if you bring in a mate down, that mate doesn't have to be exactly the same swim speed as you. If you both work out what your threshold pace is and set yourself some targets, you could both do 10 times 100, but you might be holding 1 minute 45 per 100, they might be holding 2 minutes 10. You're both achieving the same sort of session, you're both getting the same sort of fitness gains, and best of all, you can share it later on when you go for a coffee and discuss just how well that training session went for you. Tip number 3. Is vary your swimming pool. Now, this is not appropriate everywhere around the world, and I do appreciate that here in Perth, we're very lucky. We have at least 25, 50 meter swimming pools within the space of a radius of around about 10 or 15 kilometers. So of course we can vary things up a little bit. But as swimmers, we tend to be creatures of habit. And if you ever feel like you're getting a little bit a bit blue, a bit sort of down in the dumps, a bit demotivated with your swimming, one of the first tips I give you is to just go and swim in a different pool, a different environment. You might even want to venture outdoors and swim in the river or the ocean or the lake or whatever, but just actually varying up your environment does a massive amount for helping you with that motivation and keeping it calm. And I never forget, I was going through this period myself a few years ago, and I just went for a swim. Somebody told me, got to go to this swimming pool, it's called the Bicton Bat, it's on the river, on the Swan River, and it's an amazing place. I said, oh yeah, what distance is the pool? And I said, oh, it's 33 metres. I thought I got away from that in England. I want to swim in something nice and metric, like 25 or 50 metres. But you know what? It didn't matter. I went down to that swimming pool. It was a beautiful day, swimming by the banks of the Swan River, and it really did help me get out of my little slump. So don't be afraid to vary up your swimming pool. My final tip for you is to set yourself a little bit of a challenge. Now, we discussed earlier on about this idea that you could set a little tempo trainer to beep at you every 25 meters to give you some structure to some intervals that you're doing. But why not couple that with a 10-week CSS development challenge? One of the things that I really like about utilizing something like this, it's just a very, very simple way to give you some structure to your training program, is it's so accurate, it's actually accurate to 1/100th of a second. So a lot of people talk about, oh, I've been on this plateau for years, I haven't got any faster. And I'll ask them what time can they do? And they go, well, I can do about this or about that. Their answer is very, very vague. So if they're really vague with your answer about how fast you're actually swimming at the moment, how do you know if you're actually on a plateau or not? Utilizing something like this and knowing exactly where your pace is at any given point in time is actually really quite reassuring, because you know that you can actually step things up. And our 10-week CSS development program, which is a really good challenge for you to have a go on, it doesn't require you building up for competition or anything like that. You're just seeing if over the course of 10 weeks you can make your swimming around about 5% faster. That equates on this little gadget here to around about 0.1 of a second per week improvement per 25 meters. It's hardly anything at all. In fact, most of you won't even probably realize you're improving at all until you get to around about week 7 or 8, when it starts to become a little bit difficult and a little bit more challenging for you. But that's the name of the game. Set yourself a little bit of a challenge and your body will really thank you. So make sure you check that little link down below there and have a little look at our 10-week CSS development program, and maybe even consider joining our virtual swim program. We'll be very pleased to see you joining us there.